With the secret society in jeopardy, the Seitetsu High Festival is slated to continue with preparations underway. As such, the girls are busy working hard, while the boys attempt to get to the girls' side to peep on them. Meanwhile, in Natsuru and Akane's class, the other students are surrounding them to support them for the beauty contest. They then get the two to try on various outfits while the treasurer takes photos of both of them. Afterwards, both are told to go change, but unbeknownst to them, their shadows through the curtain was being recorded. Kaede then bursts in hoping to see Natsuru in cosplay, only to find she's already finished getting dressed. Regardless, at the end of the day, Natsuru heads home, back in his male form, where he also encounters Kaede. He then takes the opportunity to mend his relationship with Kaede, only for Kaede to reveal that she suspects Akane may also like Natsuru. Nevertheless, he cheers up Kaede, but she still regards male Natsuru as a rival. The next day, the festival has begun, where Natsuru encounters Kaede in a wedding dress, which makes his fantasies come true. Akane then interrupts and tells Kaede to wait, where she also joins in to get dressed. Meanwhile, Natsuru sits down in relief, but Shizuku appears out of nowhere, making him jump. She then asks him if he wants to see her change, but our Chad refuses and walks into a separate room to change. The contest then begins with Masumi Nishino playing host. Natsuru comes out first with a rapture of screams and applause, where she thinks of revealing her magic, but is forced to refrain from use of fire. Next, Kaede walks onto the stage with the audience screaming for her too. She then attempts to confess her love for Natsuru in front of everyone. So she throws her bouquet into the crowd and tries to kiss Natsuru, making the crowd go wild. The shot goes off and Akane is found standing there in her Kampfer form. She then begins to shoot at the two, but he dodges the bullets as they come out unharmed, making Akane angry. So she shoots again, causing him to fall on top of her. Thus, the audience begin to chant "kiss her," but Akane pushes him off while causing a sussy scene, making the crowd go berserk. With Natsuru now preoccupied, Akane takes advantage and attempts to finish off Kaede, but the weapon is somehow knocked out her hands. As such, Shizuku makes her entrance while throwing her cape onto Natsuru. Meanwhile, Akane picks her gun up and shoots at Shizuku, who easily cuts the bullets in half. She then throws her knife at everyone, knocks them all out, and thus gets announced as the winner. After the contest, Natsuru returns as a boy with Shizuku waiting for him. Natsuru then believes this was Shizuku's plan all along, but she just says she had to step in before it got out of hand. Regardless, he thanks her for doing so, but this isn't enough for Shizuku, so she kisses him. She then leaves Natsuru in a state of shock as she stole his first kiss. Later, Mikoto is seen walking out the front of the school upset she couldn't find male Natsuru, and shakes the bouquet in anger, but an entrails animal drops out and appears to have spoke. The next day, as Natsuru dreams about being alone with Kaede, he attempts to kiss her, but she turns into Shizuku, causing him to wake up. He is then surprised to find his childhood friend Mikoto has returned and cooked him breakfast. While waiting for the bus to school, Mikoto asks Natsuru all sorts of questions, mainly about girls, but they get interrupted when Akane wanders over, but not long after arriving, she leaves after feeling unease about finding out that the two have been friends since they were little. However, Natsuru's bracelet begins to flash, prompting him to flee away from Mikoto before he transforms. Now forced in Kampfer form, he heads to school but is ambushed by the committee chairperson and forced to participate in a quasi-maid cafe, where he is now the star attraction in the cafe. When Higashida is served, he is given tricky spicy tea that sends him running. Meanwhile, Natsuru is told that a VIP guest will be arriving soon and has requested that he specifically would be the maid to serve them. But the VIP guest turns out to be Shizuku and has paid the cafe very well. As such, she gets Natsuru to sit with her, where she warns him that a new Kampfer will be coming along. Nevertheless, Kaede later joins them, and Shizuku subtly probes her to see if she has any knowledge concerning Kampfers and the entrails animals that spawn them. Afterwards, Shizuku slyly gets Kaede to ask Natsuru for a kiss, but she declines and settles for a date around the festival instead. Later, as they enter into a haunted house, Natsuru is attacked by a new red Kampfer, whom he eventually figures out that it must be Mikoto. Regardless, Akane later intervenes and the fight is stopped by Shizuku, who asks Natsuru and Akane to reveal their true identities to her. As such, after everyone gets on the same level, Shizuku agrees on a truce, as she wants to unravel something. Meanwhile, as Natsuru apologizes for abandoning Kaede, she asks him to spend the night at her house. Now getting ready, he's excited that he's finally been invited to Kaede's house. Unfortunately, the invite is for his Kampfer form. Regardless, he leaves his house, but is confronted by Shizuku and Akane, who learn of the invite from Kaede. Akane then rebukes him for not telling her, so the girls have invited themselves to Kaede's house. Upon arriving, it's revealed that she lives alone as her parents are overseas working as diplomats. The group then walks in and find entrails animals littered everywhere. Meanwhile, Kaede goes off to get everyone drinks, and when she returns, she suggests the stick-kissing game. She offers to demonstrate with Natsuru, but Akane stops her. Nevertheless, they play the game, but Akane tries forfeiting only for Kaede to disallow her. So they begin to eat the sticks, where as always, Shizuku declares herself the winner. The group then decided on another game which pairs Akane with Natsuru, so Kaede wants a Rido to no avail. As such, they play the game by putting sticks in their mouth and eventually stop due to Kaede not getting what she wanted. Afterwards, Kaede shows them her entrails room, where she introduces them one by one. Shizuku then asks her which one she loves the most, and she picks out Hyaburi Rayan, explaining that she got him while in middle school. Suddenly, Mikoto bursts in, having looked for Natsuru and has brought curry with her, so everyone sits down and has a plate. Afterwards, Kaede asks Natsuru if he's staying over, but Shizuku pours curry all over him. As such, in the bathroom, Kaede tells her what she needs to do. However, Natsuru wants to transform back since he's embarrassed to take a shower as a female, but unable to due to Kaede peeping. Meanwhile, as Akane stops Kaede, Shizuku is seen taking Hyaburi Rayan. Afterwards, the two begin to argue over who will sleep next to Natsuru, leading to him having to sleep within the entrails room. However, he accidentally returns to normal form by accident, but has to hide under the covers when the door opens. Regardless, Kaede sneaks into the bed with him, and upon getting closer, she feels Natsuru's hair but realizes it's suddenly shorter, so she pulls the hood of the pajamas, at which point Akane interrupts and her Kampfer form firing shots into the air and gets angry at Kaede and Natsuru, who turns back into Kampfer form. She then fires several more shots while Natsuru dodges them all, but Kaede is found unconscious. As such, Akane tries to confess to Natsuru, but is interrupted when the window gets smashed by an unknown Kampfer, who reveals herself as Rika, who contains a unique white bracelet. She then begins a fight with Natsuru and Akane, easily dodging their attacks, but is luckily disarmed by Shizuku, so she decides to retreat. Afterwards, Natsuru apologizes to an unconscious Kaede for getting her involved, upon which Shizuku comes in. He then gets embarrassed looking at Shizuku, but she questions him about what exactly was Kaede doing previously. Nevertheless, Natsuru leaves to go clean up, while Shizuku wonders if she's actually jealous and in love with Natsuru. The next day, Natsuru is asked out on a date by Shizuku. He, however, thinks she has an alternative motive rather than her liking him, but he agrees anyways. Masumi then appears, having eavesdropped in their conversation, seemingly shocked at first but runs off happy as she got gossip to report on. However, Natsuru is unhappy with this, realizing he's in trouble if the Shizuku fan club found out. Luckily, Masumi discards the idea of them going on a date, thinking there's no way those two would be dating. Back at home, Tora tries convincing Natsuru that it's an actual date, but he still believes it's fake. Upon Sunday morning, Shizuku prepares bento for her date with Natsuru. Eventually, at the meeting point, Shizuku arrives and she's happy to see he arrived early, but he thinks this is to raid the White Kampfer's base. However, Shizuku suggests they go to an aquarium while he attempts to figure out who White Kampfers are. Later, they walk by a gift shop and Shizuku asks a reluctant Natsuru if he's going to buy her anything as a memento for the date, so he indeed gets her something. Upon leaving the aquarium, Shizuku grabs hold of his arm, which he thinks is a way to lower the defenses of the White Kampfers. His belly then grumbles, so they set up a picnic to eat what Shizuku had made. She then tries to feed him, but he refuses to open his mouth, so he ends up falling with Shizuku on top of him, so he finally does so. Shizuku then asks him why he likes Kaede, but he thinks about fighting the White Kampfer. As such, Shizuku starts questioning the existence of the White Kampfers and rants about defying the so-called moderators, refusing to be a pawn and wanting revenge for her friend that had been destroyed. After finishing speaking, she finds Natsuru has fallen asleep. Upon awakening, he finds himself on Shizuku's lap. Nevertheless, on the way back, she asks him to walk her home and possibly stay over. However, they are interrupted by Mikoto, who comes flying and kicking him in the face. She then confronts him and is mad that he's out with Shizuku, who explains that it's just a trap to lure out the White Kampfer, but Mikoto refuses to believe him. As such, he asks Shizuku for her help, so she reveals that they were actually on a date. She then begins to leave and hints that they have kissed. Regardless, Natsuru begs her to help him, only for Shizuku to reply saying she enjoyed the date. Thus, an enraged Mikoto sends him flying with a punch. Back in his room, Akane bursts in, having been informed of the date, so she asks him what his type is other than Kaede, so he says a mid-sprang Akane, causing her to transform, where she joyfully fires shots everywhere. After the entire ordeal, Natsuru attempts to figure out what exactly happened today, but just can't.